and welcome to You Didn't Get the Memo Show. Guys, got a great show for you as always, and talking about something that is so relevant, what is happening right now. We're going to be talking with my guest about violence, a national epidemic. And we're going to talk about the rise of violence, what's happening, and it's happening all over. So I want to welcome all of you guys to the show. Make sure that you share, you tell somebody to tell somebody, tell somebody you need to be on the show with me, your host, Gloria Bailey Ray. Now, a little bit about You Didn't Get the Memo Show. We are about providing you, the viewer, with relevant, fact based, mainstream information to help you be informed and to make informed decisions. That's really critical. Also, just remember this that You Didn't Get the Memo Show. We are streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. Our show is interactive. So if you have questions or comments for myself or my guests, place them in the comment section and we'll do our very best to respond to them. Okay. Now, a gentle reminder for all of you is my show streams live 24/7 on local BTV. So you can go to www.localbtv.com, download the BTV app, and look for the memos. It's called the Memos Show. I appreciate you guys doing that. And guess what? You get a chance to hang out with me 24/7. I always like to give a quick shout out to all my viewers and my sponsors, both nationally and internationally. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Listen, today, my guest is Miss Kelly Dillon, and she is an advocate for violence prevention and intervention here in my hometown, Oakland, California. And I can assure you, probably around every area, all of you guys, East Coast, West Coast, I'm giving shout out to you guys. I know that you would have something very, very similar. But I would like to welcome to the show my guest, Miss Kelly Dillon. Kelly, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Miss Gloria, for inviting me. I'm looking forward to the conversation. How are you today?
I'm doing well. As they always say, I'm grateful that I don't look like what I've been through either, right?
You look wonderful. You look
Well, thank
fabulous.
you. Thank you so much. So let's start out. I always like to start out to kind of level set with my viewers. I ask the guests, I could read these long CVs and all of this, but what's your backstory? Tell us a little bit about Miss Kelly Dillon.
Yes. So um, my background is that I've been working in the field of domestic violence and crisis intervention for over 13 years now. I myself am a survivor of domestic violence and also gang and community violence. And so that's where my lived experience comes from. But I've done a lot of work across the state and also nationally to address certain levels of gender-based violence, and to bring not only communities and harm those who commit harm to accountability, but also some levels of state violence against women of color, and also addressing those things as well. So that's a little bit about my work background and also my personal.
Okay. All right. Well, I think you're the perfect person for us to be talking to because you not only are doing it, but you've lived it, you've been
Yes.
in it, and I think that that makes for even a more robust conversation. I always tell people I can't talk to you about being hungry if I've never been hungry,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
when you've been in it and you've been in the trenches, you can definitely talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So let's just start right off the bat. And why don't you tell our viewers, first of all, what is the DVP or Domestic Violence Prevention Program and why was it created?
Okay, so well, actually, Gloria, DVP actually stands for the Department of Violence Prevention. And so the Department of Violence Prevention was created, I believe, around 2019 as an extension of the Measure Y program that addressed violence and violence intervention in the community with Oakland Unite. So it's just an extension of that program. And what that program focuses on is reduction, violence reduction. And how we go about that is either reduction of retaliation within the communities or even with families, right? To reduce the retaliation within the communities. We also want to reduce the level of trauma that the families and the community face because of these violence acts. And another goal that we work towards is also mending the relationship between community or system entities, and as well as the government or the city or local, like with law enforcement, things that the community may have lost trust in due to violent the way they felt these entities responded to the violence that was going on, either in their homes in their community. And so those are the three things that which we concentrate on.
Okay. All right. So that's interesting. And thank you, for that. I got there's an acronym for everything. So I appreciate that.
Yes, yes,
Right. So, but how long has this particular department been in existence? Did I
yes.
miss that?
Yeah, so it's been in existence for a little bit over 2 years now. So the work isn't new, and a lot of the leadership that we have at the Department of Violence Prevention have been
Mhm,
doing this work well over 15 years or so, if not about 20. But
mhm.
the department itself is new, and the strategies that we are actually building and implementing a lot of new innovative strategies to address violence in the community.
Okay, and that leads me into a question to ask you what metrics are being used to determine the success of the program? Because let me just say this, to any of y'all out there listening, anytime something starts off, sometimes people want to see things immediate. They think it's supposed to boom, it's supposed to happen overnight. I voted for this, or we gave you money for this. And so I think that it's important for us to talk about what are the metrics that are being used to determine if this program is successful? So I'm just gonna say it. Y'all don't hate me, don't email me. But people want to throw the baby out with the bathwater a lot of times, so to speak. So talk to our viewers about this particular program, and how you are looking at, are you and the rest of the team
Yeah.
that are determining what does success look like? You know.
Yes.
Mhm.
So for us, as well as the community, as you said, everybody has a focus on what they want the success to be like with any agency or organization that's addressing the issue in their community. So, of course, maybe some people may be looking at the metrics, and how we measure our metrics is we are doing research. We are collecting data about the way we respond to these incidents of violence, whether if there are shootings, homicides, gender-based violence. We're measuring that because, like I said, this is a new program, so we're measuring and gathering that information as we go in order to produce it and present it back to the community. But if you ask those that's on the ground, boots on the ground, that's doing life coaching, that's doing the VI violence intervention response, then we measure success by helping the family, comforting the mother, helping the father with the funeral, getting a young person to put down a gun and pick up maybe a hammer to become a construction worker. We measure the success in that way. So, like I said, for the community, maybe looking at the fact of, is the violence now no longer happening on their front door, and then they say it's a success. But we understand that it's more to it than just um, stopping the violence, because now we have to deal with the trauma and the aftermath of that violent incident, and also dealing with the mindsets, dealing with the healing part of the person that has been shot, and even the person that's doing the shooting. So we look at success holistically.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And that's really interesting. And this, guys, is why we do this show, because there are so many things that some of us don't know, we're not aware of, that's happening here, and bringing this type of education. It's interesting. You made your final sentence was you're also dealing with, say, the person who is the shooter.
Yes.
And many people, of course, and I know at times I look at stuff, and we only see things one way, right? But
Mhm.
the thing is, there's three sides to every story. Not
Mhm.
saying right or wrong, but all you can think of is, oh no, they don't need a trial, they don't need any kind of
Mhm.
intervention, they don't need anything, right? Just put them
Yeah.
away.
Mhm.
So it's good to hear that you guys are holistically, you're looking at the entire picture. You're looking at all parties that are involved, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, yes, we are.
Mhm.
Because we like, there's a term that really has been used in the last few years about hurt people,
Right.
right? And
Mhm.
so we have to look at what has hurt that individual, that they have become desensitized to hurting others. But
Mm.
like even in my situation, as you asked me a little bit about my backstory about me being a victim of domestic violence, I had to hurt my abuser in order to flee or get out of that situation. But
Mm.
if law enforcement shows up, or even a violence interrupter may show up, and all you might hear the story is, um, uh, just you might hear the story of a girl or a young lady shot another individual, right?
Mm.
And so you're like, oh my God, like they just shooting whatever, but not understanding that there's element of domestic violence. There's different types of situation, or it may have been that someone was fleeing exploitation. You get what I'm saying? So, so things like that. There's backstories to what's happening. That
Mhm.
is just not the violence that is sometimes broadcast in the media. We actually deal with those stories.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's really something.
Hmm.
Just even hearing what you say, which actually makes sense. In order to flee
Hmm.
your abuser, sometimes you got to do the abusing yourself, so to
Yeah.
speak. That's the thing. I want to say good evening to all y'all. I see you, San Antonio and Arkansas. Look, always, my guy from Africa. Thank you guys for being here, San Antonio. Love this, love this. So we're talking with Miss Kelly Dillon, and we're talking about a national epidemic as it relates to violence. And there is none of you that are on here or that are tuned in that your world hasn't been rocked, whether it's your community, whether it's something in your home or a friend or a relative. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that has been impacted by violence. And in many cases, what we may say is senseless violence. I think maybe for the perpetrator at the time, they don't see it as being senseless, but we know that these things happen, and that's why we're talking with Miss Kelly Dillon today, you guys, and we're talking about domestic violence because there is a rise in it, and there is no question. And by the way, none of you that are living in your glass house and ivory towers, you're affected by it too. So let me just be real. That's what the show is about, and I'm always about keeping that piece of it real too. So, Miss Kelly, what we're going to do, we're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to allow you to kind of marinate us a little bit on this because you already know the answer, I'm certain. But I'm curious to know, does the team work with, the police department, or do you guys operate separately? So, guys, don't go anywhere. You're tuned into the You Didn't Get the Memo show with my awesome guest, Miss Kelly Dillon, and she's bringing it to you. So, guess what? We'll be right back.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Poor Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed?
Get off my food.
Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug. You know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for you. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
to thank you guys for hanging in here with us. You are tuned into the You Didn't Get the Memo show with my awesome guest, Miss Kelly Dillon, and I'm your host, Gloria Bailey Ray. We're talking today about violence, a national epidemic. And before we took a quick break, I posed a question to my guest, Miss Kelly, asking, does her team work with the police department as it relates to the violent issues that are happening, or do you operate separately?
Yeah, we are a separate entity of Oakland PD, of law enforcement, but we do work towards the same goals. And the goals is that we want to make sure that no one else is safety, public safety. We want to make sure that no one else is harmed, no one else is hurt. And those are that is our main goal. When we're on the scene, we do engage with law enforcement, but that engagement is to make sure that we are able to wrap around the family. We are there for the community, and so law enforcement knows that. The community also knows that, and then we can maintain that integrity in the work we do.
Okay. All right. So, what I like about that is you've got, it's not just kind of one group trying to handle everything, that saying, yeah, you can only do one thing really,
Yeah.
really good, and the others you've got to involve other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, law enforcement is there to work the crime or to deal with the crime scene or the incident, to do that. We are here to make sure that the family of the loss is supported, the community that witnessed the incident is supported, and making sure that the families and whoever, even the victim, if there's a victim that is still involved and that's alive, that victim has the wraparound services that they need.
Mhm. All right. And when we talk about you as a violence advocate, I'm certain that there are people probably asking, what are the responsibilities of someone like yourself? How, so I guess it's two questions in one. What are the responsibilities, but also what kind of qualities? You got to have a special kind of qualities to do this, right? And to remain, what's the word? You're not judgmental,
Mhm.
and just kind of just be just,
Yeah.
you know, I would say steady Eddie, just on an even
Yeah.
keel. And I,
We get that a lot, Doctor. I mean, we get that a lot, Miss Gloria.
Mhm,
We're asked what is violence interrupter? Like, what does that mean, right? And what we do is that we do put ourselves, those that actually do this work, because this violence interruption is actually happening, and like you say, nationally in the city. Some of our leadership, those who started this work 20 years ago, have now been taking this work and training and vetting different individuals all over the nation to be able to do that work in their own city. But a violence interrupter is that we mediate, we do community mediation. We do community mediation even with among family members. Sometimes you have family members that's against other family members within like different communities, and so it is a work that is special. Like, we are trained. So we go, like, we are trained, we are vetted. Sometimes there's hours, and up until like hundreds of hours of training, of consistent training and skill sets that has to come along when it comes to dealing with this level of trauma, right? And there is also some form of academic training. A lot of us are, we have that academic of sociology or psychology or whatever under our belt. Some of us are have substance abuse counseling and training like that. So because we know that it's not just the issue of violence, like we stated before, you have individuals who are hurting themselves and have different levels. There is a level of mental health that is involved. If you constantly, if you have an individual that for 15 or 20 years of my life, I've been constantly either receiving violence, and now I'm on the giving end of violence for another 10 years, and now I'm 30 years old. You have an individual have immersed themselves or either been pulled into 30 years of violence. And so there has to be a mental health component, a level of PTSD that comes along with that, right? And so, like you said, it's multiple levels of this, but you have to be. I always say this is not, you have to be called to this work. You have to be called to this work, right? Because we go into, and most violence interrupters, we go into these situations without the same tactical gear that other agencies may have. You know what I'm saying? All we are armed with is a heart and a mind and a spirit to do this work and a cell phone. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be called to this work.
Yeah, yeah, and what a calling it is because, well, what's the saying? God gives his hardest tasks
Mhm.
to his strongest soldiers. And I applaud you and your team.
Thank
At times, as much as I can sit here and, I'm on this end, but I
you.
don't know how I would react being on the other end, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that you're saying you're armed with a cell phone, some knowledge in your head,
Yeah.
and, the gift of speech to
Yeah.
be able to articulate or communicate something to a person.
Yeah.
And sometimes you wonder, is that really enough? And
Mhm.
and you've got me questioning, thinking, I don't know, a cell phone.
Mhm.
Do I need a gun too, right?
Yeah.
And I know y'all, I mean, I'm human. And so to hear you say that again, my hat's off to you. This is why we do this. People need to know this is no joke. You said that you've got to be called to do the work.
Yeah.
That in itself, I just pray
Yeah.
God's coverage over you and your team for
Yeah.
sure, because I know it's not easy. And
Yeah.
just in the city of Oakland alone, if we look at the number of homicides,
Mhm.
and then suicide is
Yes.
rise, right?
Yeah.
And you've got like you said, that mental health component to it. You can pack down stuff for so long, after a while, somewhere it has to come out somewhere.
Right.
So what happens, to that? So I'm blown away listening
Yeah.
to talk about, what you have done. And by the way, let me not, I need to underscore and applaud you for taking a step to get out of a situation, because there are women who are listening to you right now and
Yeah.
there's no way out. I
Yeah.
don't have a way out. I got 2, 3 kids. I can't do this. I got to depend on, and that's what your perpetrator wants you to think,
Yes.
you know. But I'm telling you, you got to know that you're stronger than that.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to believe that. So,
Yeah. And
just,
then and then also there's another, if with the ability and the right support and the right resources, that's what you see with me here today, right? Is that it took those wraparound services, it took
mhm,
that support and that acknowledgement, that non-judgment, in order to pour into me at a time at my most brokenness and my most lowest, in order for me to become what I am today. So most of the people that do this work, what you're seeing is people who have triumphed over the lowest or the most broken part of their time in their life,
mhm,
that is now in leadership and helping to change how society views violence and those that are in the center of it or exposed to it, and
mhm.
also how we go about to address the reduction of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing that can take the place of experience.
Yes.
Just said, if you ain't never been hungry, don't talk to me about what I need to do. You
Right.
never been hungry. You never had money to buy diapers for your baby. You sitting
Yeah.
up with no lights and gas on. And,
Yeah.
and those are the things. And that's why I always say, thank God I don't look like what I've been through.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
God that I have overcome being, I am a victor of domestic violence. And so for me, I
Mhm.
know that's why I tell people I'm blessed and highly favored. I
Yeah.
just don't say that. I
Yes.
really mean that because I know where I've been.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Gloria, you spoke of something and you said about, don't talk to me about being hungry if you've never been hungry before.
Mhm.
And that's what the uniqueness about the Department of Violence Prevention is, that we have credible messengers. that at least 85% of our staff are those with lived experience. And
Mm,
not only do they have lived experience, they also are credible among the community to
mm,
be able to negotiate some of this violence and reduction in this mediation. And so that means something. So when they come to the youngsters and say, or they come to a man or a woman and say, hey, listen, just can you stop for a minute? Let's take a pause. I know you're angry. They know that these people are there for them. They know that they are true to the community. And so they get the respect of that pause to
right,
just think about that action before they respond. And so, like you said, not only are we called to that work, but we're respected. And as Kevin Grant would say, I think he said we respect it, we respect it, and no, he said we accept it, we are respected, and then we're expected to be there. So it gets to a place of us being expected to be there. So
right.
yeah. Hmm.
Absolutely. Well, let me switch gears for you because, on one hand, because we're still talking about violence,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about your focus, your organization's focus on the rise in gender-based biases. Because one of the things that's happened every time you turn on the news, no matter where you are in the world, you're seeing all of these numbers, and they just keep trending upward and upward and upward. And so, let's talk about that from your perspective. What are you guys seeing? And I guess, you know, I know that I can probably say this. I think just some for me it's ignorance for some people, right? But just talk about the focus. What's your department's focus there as relates to gender
Yeah.
based violence?
Gender-based violence.
Mhm.
So, with the gender-based violence program, that's where my role is. I'm part of the gender-based violence team. I'm a program analyst for the department, and so we have begun to address gender-based violence in a few ways, right? And but like you say, this is just the beginning. We just started this program, really implementing and kind of making sure that it carries out this year. Is that we are trying to create a triangle incident response to assist with the VIs, because a lot of these shooting incidents we see, they have um, a background of domestic violence surrounding some of the shootings. So it's not just like I say, what is being presented out into the public. Some of it is family or intimate partner violence. And so we're creating a triangle incident response to address some of those issues around the shootings. We've also expanded on our funding. So we were able to really double the amount of agencies and sub grantees and lead agencies to address gender-based violence as a crisis response, 24-hour hotline, wraparound service, housing, community healing, workshops, to just address all of the things that go along with the issue of gender-based violence. And also we're looking to bring more intersectional work within the department of how we go about addressing violence. And so instead of saying, oh, that's gun violence over there, or that's gang violence over there, it's the fact that it's violence is violence. So just trying to figure out how do we address it as a whole, as I said before, when we know that there's multiple layers and facets of violence that interconnects, right? And so we're looking at that as well. And so part of what I'm doing this year is that I'm observing and going out and responding to some of the violent incidents that may be female identified and involved around the incidents, and then just looking at what is those numbers, like you say, what is the matrix, what is the patterns, what is happening here, in order so we can have a more strategic focus with the next up and coming years on how to totally address it.
Okay. Congratulations on getting additional funding, for sure. And I know, and across the country, these departments need funding for this. And I think the they would take more time to really talk with people from the organization, that they would have a much better understanding
Yeah.
of where the funds go, what it is that you do, how you do it,
Yeah.
and therefore would be, I would say, a lot more sensitive
Yeah.
to the type of work that you guys do, because there is a certain level of sensitivity,
Yeah.
that level of privacy.
Yes.
You know, definitely along with the privacy has to be trust,
Yes.
and that whole level of integrity that you have to have around all of this and the type of work that you do. And
Yes.
it takes a special people to be able to do that. And
Yeah.
I say to all of you that are, tuned in around the country, just reach out to your city council people and find out if there are these departments here. Find out, how you can get involved. Even if you don't do anything, for me, Kelly, if I can't do anything but file some paperwork for you, right? Or make a donation, support. And for those of you who are building your trust,
Yeah.
and I mean your trust funds,
Yeah.
you can leave some money to the departments.
Yeah.
There's always so much you heard when and we'll come back to that about what you meant by wraparound services, so people
Yeah.
know it's you're just not putting the money in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
So we'll talk about what that means. But thank you for expounding on that.
Mhm.
So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about your department's role and the challenges you guys are having in curbing gun violence, gang violence, and group violence. Okay, so guys, don't go anywhere. I see all of your comments, and I promise I'm going to share them with Miss Kelly. But thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you. So hang in here. We'll be right back.
You told me not to talk to strangers. You told me not to cross the street without looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove.
You told me not to do drugs.
You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
Attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are on the rise.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer. In terms of the hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
All right. Thank you guys so much for being here. And we're continuing our conversation with my awesome guest, Miss Kelly Dillon, who is an advocate for violence prevention and intervention. Before we went to break, I asked Miss Kelly about discussing the role that her department plays and the challenges her department has in curbing, first of all, gun violence, and then the next one was gang violence and group violence. So, not in any particular order, Miss Kelly, but if you could speak to those three different areas, please.
When you said that, like, so far as challenges, can you just expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, well, when I think of challenges, what are the barriers that are coming up that keeps your department from being able to deal with just gun violence, period? Because it seems like now, I mean, 7-year-olds are taking guns to school,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And even though I hear people say, well, their parents should be responsible. Well, we're living in a different day and age now, right? And
Right.
so kids don't want to be seen as they say, punked out, or that, that they're afraid. So
Yeah.
I'm speaking of in terms of challenges,
Yeah.
meaning, what types of barriers, if any, there may
Yeah.
not be any,
Yeah.
as relates to you and your department dealing with
Yeah.
gun violence.
Right. So, like, I'm gonna say it like in this analogy is that, to me, violence is almost like cancer, right? the fact of the matter is that if you cannot eradicate it totally, right, then it's hidden in different tissues or something like that that allows it to spread. So when we look at violence, violence is just not the individual who's committing the violence. It's not the issue. Sometimes it's the issue in the environment. It's the issue of system, like the systems that take part in it. It's this whole big mechanism around the individual that may be committing the violence that also adds to some of the barriers and the challenges, right? But also some of the things that the challenges that we have seen in this last year is the fact that the violence incidents have been more random, right? So we were normally, like I said, I've been doing this work for over 13 years. Normally we can see a pattern of violence, or we can kind of figure out that this particular group of people or this family over here is having some issues. We can pretty much pattern out and see that, okay, well, let's go and try to initiate peace or get ahead of the situation to initiate peace in order to reduce it. But now it's this sporadic, random acts of violence throughout the Bay, especially around Oakland, that we're trying to now, with law enforcement, us as well, and different entities that address violence, are trying to look at like, wow, where did this random, acts and these random incidents of violence come from, to be able to figure out how do we now address it. And also, I just also want to say one of the challenges is that individuals may be looking at, Oakland, because I'm gonna speak for Oakland right now, but that may look at Oakland and say, wow, there's a lot of violence that's coming from within Oakland, right? But I do want to just share that several in many incidents that we have had to deal with, address, wasn't from direct Oakland residents, right? And so, but now the focus of the violence in which we're responding to looks like is happening within Oakland, but sometimes it's random and from incidents from people coming out of town, maybe to sports events or maybe concerts or whatever types of like music events, and then this violence happens within the city. So I just don't want to I've, like I say, I'm from Los Angeles, but I fell in love with Oakland. I've been doing the work in Oakland, but it's not just an Oakland issue, right? Some of these issues are just landing or falling in Oakland, but it's not just an Oakland issue. And I think that's just one of the challenges that we have when we are having to deal with incidents that's within Oakland that we can't trace back to a particular family, person, or community to order to make sure that it is addressed.
Yeah, that's very true, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when I think back to, of course, the George Floyd incident, right, the looting and all of that, a lot of the people that were doing the looting, they weren't from Oakland.
Right.
They were from outside other areas. Uh, there were people who would come into the city to just get people stirred up.
Right.
So I thank you for addressing that and recognizing that, because it's not. And again, like I said, it's across the board. We have people, we're both national and international. And so people are seeing this, and it's important. That's why you guys need to keep your fingers on the pulse. You need be woke. I mean, really woke about what's going on in your community, and attending different meetings and finding out what's happening. Don't wait until it gets on your doorstep for you then to want to shout and scream about something happening. So, and I would say that probably when we think about what you talk about, because I think you not only covered the gun violence piece, but also, gang and group violence. And I don't know if there's really a word to differentiate gang violence versus group violence. So if you're able to expound, on that, because I see them one and the same. I mean, they're in a group, they're in a gang, right? So maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, just it's like sometimes it's not like gang. There's a different. And you, like you say, you got to be real careful with that word, but there's different guidelines, protocols, culture to gang life than it is a crew or a group of individuals that may be joined together and just have loyalty, or maybe just grew up with one another. You know what I'm saying? And so, like you say, with the group violence, is that it's no different. So I'm just saying, like, how it can be group. It can be as simple as, let's just say us four, we are all girlfriends. We go out, everybody knows us. We got the same color car. We all got, this going on for us. And so when we step out, everybody know, okay, that's Gloria gang right there. I mean, that's Gloria group of girls.
Right. Right.
And so we might have beef with a couple other girls that's challenging us with their cars or something like that. That don't mean that we're in a gang, but it means that we have some form of commonality, of group, of loyalty that we have each other. That if somebody was to come while we're in the club having a good time, Gloria, not saying that you'll ever start anything, right? But just say they don't like the hat that you're wearing right now. They hating on you. That I'll be down to have your back if it goes down in the club, right? So if somebody come and step to you a certain way, I'm like, hold up, back up off my sis, right? Something as simple as that can turn into two group violent incidents where now me and my homegirls, which is Miss Gloria, because you my homegirl now, Miss Gloria. There's nothing you can do to change that. You're my homegirl now. So, but just as simple as the fact that can turn into two group getting into it. That doesn't mean that you're from a gang. You wouldn't identify as a gang, right? But but when law enforcement may come up on the scene, they'll say that group got into it with that group. You know what I'm saying? So it's something simple as that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Absolutely. And look, so you don't get rid of me. I'm
you down, Miss Laura? You down?
I'm down with it all the way, all the way.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for for sharing that. Now, when we talk about success rate, and I'm not quite certain how that is measured, but if you're able to speak to, what would you say the success rate has been for your department as relates to curbing just gun violence?
Yeah,
I
like you said, you spoke on it earlier, and you said that across the nation we're at an upward trend, right? Yeah. So that's the reason why we cannot measure success just because the numbers didn't went up. Like you say, because those numbers have went up because of the incidents that happened in Oakland that isn't even tied to Oakland. So it's the fact that we were at a place in which we were curbing violence going up towards like maybe about 65%. Then during the pandemic, it spiked when we came off of that like stay at home lockdown. So we had a spike right now, right? But that doesn't mean that we are not addressing and we're not on the ground addressing that spike of violence. I think that we are still, because I know across the state, because like I said, I do this work across the state. We're still at lower numbers than we ever have been, like if 5 or 10 years ago. We're still below that trend, even though we've been higher than we've been in the last few years. So I think that I think we really are. We're doing the best we can, Ms. Gloria, to address a spike when we're also still burying individuals we love from COVID. We're still having to deal with normal everyday issues of sickness, of hospitalizations and stuff like that within our own family. So we're out here trying to protect the community while still trying to protect ourselves. And so we're burying individuals and we're attending funerals because of gun violence, and we're attending masses of funerals because of the response to sickness and COVID-19. It's a lot. Yeah. And so but like you said, sometimes certain community members just want to see a quick, easy fix. And I get it because it's scary. It's not a real way to live. You know what I'm saying? We're tired of living that way. And then you got to look at the individual who is experiencing domestic violence or intimate partner violence in their home, and then going out into the street and having to walk or step across it because it's this yellow tape in front of them. Where is the refuge? So there's this extreme amount of trauma that we are still in the midst of. And I think that we don't even realize that this spike in this epidemic of violence that we see is a response to that trauma.
Right.
It's the response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a question from one of the viewers asking, how do you change the narrative after the news has provided the wrong information?
Yeah. So that question is, how do we as a department
Yeah.
change the narrative?
I
Yeah.
think that's what he meant. Yes.
I think Chief Cespedes does a very good job at giving, a little bit better information around what's actually happening. Of course, we know that certain news have their own agenda. Like Miss Gloria, you said you keep it real. Like you here to have real talk with real news about real issues. But we know that media doesn't paint that picture and doesn't have that. So a lot of times we don't address it directly. Sometimes we don't have the opportunity to address it. But what we do is that we just keep focused on what we are here to do, and we don't get caught up in the politics of the media. But when we have the opportunity, then we try to give the community the response that isn't about defending what has happened or defending our actions. We are here to still focus on how do we give the information that's going to bring comfort to the community, that's going to bring understanding to the community, and so that they can understand what has happened.
Right.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. So in your opinion, Miss Kelly, what do you feel is required to ensure the ongoing effectiveness of your department?
I think that right now, I believe that what is required is what we're actually doing is that we are, I think we are getting in external support as we are having that internal support, right? So we are really working to tighten up internally, what I'm saying, what we are trying to focus on. What I'm saying, because like you say, sometimes when things like this happen or there's a spike or these other issue arrives, it makes us have to now refocus or re-strategize or restructure where we're going, right? So we're tightening up internally to make sure that we are all strategically on the same page, but also outwardly, I think that we are able to present to the community. We having better opportunities, like the opportunity that you're giving to me. There's these opportunities to be able to present to our community to get them to understand what they have invested in, what they have voted for, and the fact that we are addressing what their needs was, what they expressed their needs was. I think that is mainly what we need right now to continue on and successfully moving forward in the program.
Right, right. And I would be remiss if I didn't address and say that within any department, you all have caseloads. You all are dealing with and probably I think maybe overwhelm is just a word that's been overused because it's so much that you're having to juggle and balance and deal with. So the question is, how do you stay motivated? Because you're getting up every day and you're dealing with this, and as much as we say you try not to take it home with you,
Yeah.
but I still think that there's a certain level you learn to maybe compartmentalize certain things. But, at the end of the day, there's still that element of motivation that, like you said, the work, God gifted you this to be able to do this work. But still, with me, people always think, oh, she's so happy go lucky. It's amazing when people say, how you feeling? I'm telling them, oh, I'm feeling a little down today. They go, oh, you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Like that was a real response. I'm feeling down today, right?
Yeah.
So, and I found that some days it's a little tougher than others for me to get pumped up and stay motivated.
Yeah.
So, what about yourself?
Yeah. You know what actually motivates me is when I go to work and I see my team, right? I see my team showing up even when they have their own issues going on at home, when they're not feeling good. Um, I don't know. It's just something about being a part of a team that has a like this heart, that like this amazing heart for this work, the compassion, the empathy. It's like it makes me want to show up. It makes me want to give my all. And so I'm gonna say that my team motivates me, right? They do. That's the external that I get, that energy that I get from them. My team, like, man, I can't. I know it sounds like some people be like, oh, she just saying that because, whatever. But no, I'm telling you, yeah, but I'm telling you, the Department of Violence Prevention, my team is an awesome team. That team, that department, from administrative level to life coaches to VIs to everybody that do, just the assistant to the directors, just everybody, just they everybody has a heart, and they all care about what's happening in the community. They not just pushing paper or pushing grants or doing or just filing cases or whatever like that. Like they actually, we sit, we sometimes mourn for certain cases. We pray together. We motivate each other. It's an awesome team, and so that team gives me the external motivation that I need. And of course, like you say, I would be remiss to not give glory to my God, who is the head of my life,
All right,
who gives me my just, when his strength is made perfect in my weakness, is how I show up to this work. So that's for me.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. I love it. I can't do nothing without her. So, so quickly, let me just ask you this, Miss Kelly. I know that there is a coaching fellowship program that DVP has. Is that correct?
Well, we do a life coaching training program, right?
Okay.
Because we have life coaches, and then there's been a life coaching training and certification that has been going on for a few years, in which those that do the work or who's maybe connected to organizations are able to do life coaching. So yes, we do have a life coaching training program. We just had a training just recently. And so you will have to just pretty much log on to the website, find out more about the life coaching program,
okay,
the trainings that are involved. And I think, and also, I don't know, for those that may be part of the city, there's a lot of different trainings and that goes out through the city, and also awareness. So, what I'm saying, there's also opportunities to learn more about gun violence prevention and gender-based violence, sexual exploitation. A lot of those trainings too. The CSEC program, which is the Commercial Sexually Exploited Children's Prevention certification. All of those things are available for community members, like you said, who may want to get involved, who may want to be the change that they want to see in their community, and they may have to start with you.
Right, absolutely. Well, we're going to take, when I say a quick break, a real quick break. And when we come back, though, a couple of questions that I'd like for you to think about. How can the community get involved or get behind what your office is doing in the field? What tools or resources does the department need? And what do you want people watching the show to take away? So I gave you three things all in one, but we'll come back to it. But we're going to take a quick break, guys. Thank you so much for your comments and questions. Hang in here with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching the You Didn't Get the Memo show with your inspirational host, Gloria Bailey Ray. It's your contributions that make this happen. To become a sponsor, send an email to youdidn'tgetthememo@gmail. That's the letter U, didn't get the memo. If you're not in a space to be a sponsor, but you like what you hear, we simply ask that you support what you like by making a contribution to the show. There are 3 ways to make an online donation. Visit paypal.me/Gloria Bailey Ray or Cash App, or Venmo. Gloria Bailey Ray. Give what you can. Your support is appreciated.
Okay, I told you it was really quick. And before we went to break, Miss Kelly, before you answer questions, let me just share with you. Um, you've got some people who are saying they're so proud of you, and we appreciate that, right? You know, thank you, Miss Kelly. So definitely appreciate that. Um, I really appreciate your topics, Lady G, your shows. Always provide topics that I can actually apply and share with family and friends. Thank you and all of your guests. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. And so this person just gave you a ton of purple hearts. And so, but we do appreciate all of our guests. And I say to all of you guys, I couldn't do this work um, if I didn't have the love and the passion for it. And I'm always grateful to God for allowing me to have guests who are willing to come on here. And, they're not compensated, guys. So all of your donations and everything, it goes to, help so many other things that is needed when you're producing and hosting a show. But I'm so grateful that you guys appreciate that. Before we went to break, I posed 3 questions to my guests. The first one was, how can the community get involved or get behind what Miss Kelly's office is doing in the field?
Yeah. So you can go online to oaklandca.gov and type in Department of Violence Prevention in order to contact our team so you can see how you can get involved or how you can support. Just like recently, we had a series of events called Town Nights that we did over the summer. Like you can tap in with us, like to see how you can be a part of some of those events coming up around your community, or just find out with your council member. The basic thing is to talk to your council office, your district office, and find out what violence prevention agencies, what commercial sexual exploited prevention agencies that's in your community is right there. And you can get the listing that you need to see how you can be involved.
Okay. Ms. Kelly, is this Oakland CA dot, I see a typo,
Yeah.
GOV, right?
Yes.
GOV.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. And is it come up as this Department of
Yes.
Violence Prevention?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys have it there, and I would venture to say, like I said, with all of you around the country, you all have very similar departments, and you can just go to your city, website and look this up. Okay, so thank you for that, Miss Kelly. The second question was, what tools or resources does your department need? Don't be shy.
I would say we can always use some additional funding, right? We can also get back. I know that also that we really need, like expansion on life coaching, gender-based violence specialists, and also VIs, you know what I'm saying? So, looking at the fact that we have a team, it's a powerful team, but to just make sure that we have the resources that's needed and necessary to support. But like I said, you can always go online and then just connect with us to see, what I'm saying, just see how you can give or how you can support or how you can connect us to some work that's already being done so we can expand on what we need.
Right. Okay. My last question, Miss Kelly, was what do you want people watching the show today to take away?
I think as I was talking to you, what stood out to me, Miss Gloria, is the fact that we're all hurting, right? We're hurting from the things that we have experienced, maybe even been victimized about, but that the fact that the person who is doing the victimizing some way, somehow is hurting too, right? And in not to take away from the experience, but I really just want to say is that the only way that we can address this, I believe, is from a more holistic, loving, and forgiving place, because we've done the punishment. Everybody knows that if you shoot a gun, you can get the 25 to life or the 35 to life, and that seemed to not stop anybody from doing it. And so that way, even though I know that that is in place, but evidently that way isn't working. It's not the end all to the issue. And so we really need to take a step back and look at how we are addressing violence prevention and intervention from both sides of it to bring us together, because the victim and the suspect come out the same home.
Yeah, that's true. Very deep. Okay, so Miss Kelly, you don't go anywhere. You stay right there. I'll be right back with you. I want to say to all of you guys, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today. I want to thank my guest, Miss Kelly Dillon, for being on the show. And you heard she has such a huge role, and for her to take out the time to be here with us, I am humble and I am grateful. I really and truly hope that you found the information that she shared with us here today to be educational, informational, and inspirational, inspiring you to want to do more. I always say this: if you aren't part of the solution, you're part of the problem, and people got to quit talking about it and be about it. And so I want to encourage you to embrace, giving back and giving something back. I want to remind all of you guys to be sure and follow me on all my social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram. But more importantly, I want you to set your calendars for every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to log on to the show. Just give me 55, 60 minutes of your time to share information with you. I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. Also, a brief reminder: if you miss an episode, you can also go back and check it out. You can go to YouTube, definitely, and you don't even have to look. It's already, up there for you by date or title, and you can, look for that. I want to also ask you guys to do me a favor. Hey, check out my website. If you didn't get the memo, .com, and get you some you didn't get the memo paraphernalia. I need you to get some cups and some water bottles and some caps and some t-shirts. It's all up there, you guys. So come on, support the sister, right? It's been a blast, and as I always say, if you didn't take anything away from today's show, then it's really you who didn't get the memo. So until this time next week, I want you to have a wonderfully blessed week. Give thanks for all of your blessings. Stay safe. Always remember to pay it forward. I'm Gloria Bailey Ray. I'm your host, and I just bid you, just good tidings and many, many blessings. Guys, take good care. I love you all. I'll see you next week.